All right, folks. Welcome back to Unofficially Opinionated. I am Christian here with Nate and Tim. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Hey. Look, we got the giggles a little bit today, but it's all right. We'll work through it as usual. The topic today is the streaming wars.
Streaming wars.
The war of our generation.
Right? Exactly. Oh, my goodness.
Look, we'll talk through it. Just as you guys know, we're not here to give any kind of official analysis or deep dive into what's going on. Look, this is our opinions.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it, how we feel about it, and we'll see. So before that, how y'all
been? You sound like you say that like you've been burned. Did we get some kind of comments or something?
No. I'm just let people know.
Just putting that out there. Okay.
As usual, it's just the comments. We ain't here to give you analysis about the state of streaming in our society today.
We experts on it or something.
We're just gonna have some opinions and talk about what we think. So
this is very unofficial opinions. Exactly. Right. We do try to do a little research, but we're not like Tim said, we're not experts on this. We don't even attempt to be. Okay. We have our own expertise in certain fields, but beyond that,
streaming is not one of them.
No, it's not. We just like to talk about it. So let's see.
Yeah. So real quick, Nate, you've been traveling. How's that been going?
I have been. I did this last minute trip to London, which was insane. I didn't accomplish what I had set out to go there for. Well, the main reason I had set out to go there. So that was a little disheartening. But I did, however, go out. I got out there. I went for Pride, London Pride, and I got out there and I met some really cool people who I tagged in my photos. We were at Trafalgar Square, and I just stayed there the entire day. It was free, which I didn't think was going to be the case. But at the end, we were up at the front near where the concert was happening, really underneath the concert, right at the stage. And there weren't very many people, and they were like, trust us, it's going to be really full. When they say really full, they meant they closed down the entire area around Trafalgar Square. And there were so many people, no cars could pass at all, So that's where the parade went through. And then afterward, they closed it down. And there were people, because there were a bunch of artists there that I didn't know were going to be there. I went there for Heartstopper. I went there to meet the cast of Heartstopper, which I didn't get to do. But I did get to see them up on stage. And so I took a video of it and stuff like that. But then when I went there, when I met these people, they were like, oh yeah, Adam Lambert's going to be there and Todrick Hall. And I was like, what? I didn't know this. So just a bunch of people were there. Rita Ora, I think that's her name. She was there and stuff like that. And Rita Ora was fabulous. She brought it. Her and Todrick Hall, they really brought it. Adam Lambert as well. He was really the headliner. I didn't know. I didn't know any of this. I didn't research any of this. You know how I do. I got something to do, and then I do it, and then I just made a lot of acquaintances while I was there. So yeah, and now I'm in Bordeaux, France, with Liam. We're on vacation for a few days. Yeah,
very cool. Very cool. How about you, Tim? I know you weren't going into Pride in London or anything, but what you been up to?
No, I'm at home. I'm not going nowhere.
You say that like you're offended or something.
He was like,
I'm at home.
No, that you didn't get to go to a Pride or something. No, because I know Seattle has a pretty big Pride, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, yeah.
I should go to one, but
no, I'm at home, and that's all I'm doing. We're not doing nothing right now. We're gonna be probably doing something for 4th of July.
Oh yeah, happy 4th of July, by the way, y'all.
Oh, thank you. We mean y'all. You're still one of us.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am, but not happy 4th of July. Not after what the U.S. Supreme Court, that mess that they pulled on Friday.
Oh, man.
No. Anyways, go ahead. Don't let me get started.
That's a totally another different conversation.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Sorry, y'all wasn't doing nothing. Mm-hmm, yeah.
No, we're not doing much. We're probably gonna have some friends over, but just we're
Okay.
kind of just laid back,
Okay.
after we do all the cleaning and stuff.
All
Just
right.
laid
Sweet,
back.
sweet.
And
Yeah,
you,
I was telling you
Chris?
earlier, Tim, that my family was across the pond for a European tour. Jaden and Carol were over there, and so while they were gone, I was in full bachelor mode,
Yeah,
and
you
so
was.
they got back on Sunday, and so Sunday morning, I decided it was time to clean up and get ready. So but here's the thing, I always do this whenever I know like I'm gonna be up by myself for a few days or a day or something. I have like I want to do some things around the house while Carol's gone. She can come back and it's better than what it was. So
Right.
um, this trip, the main goal was make sure it's not worse when they get back, and I accomplished it. So they came back. The place was a little bit better off than when she left, and I had a couple of things done. Not the full list I made for myself of like 10 things,
Oh
but I
wow.
got
Okay.
I got a couple of things done. So that's done. I also hit level I think 75 in Diablo.
Uh,
So
man.
that lets you know kind of what I was into.
Yes, where your focus was. Okay.
So literally, it's funny because I hadn't played the game in like I don't know, maybe 20 hours or so, and
Hmm.
and I had forgotten how to play. I was like, wait a minute, this is I haven't. This is as long as I've gone without playing this game in like 10 days.
Jeez,
It was
this
crazy.
guy.
So yeah, but yeah, now I'm off a trip with Jaden again. We're going to Chicago for a couple days.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so
Just to
I'll
go,
be
or for,
well, he's
or
got
because of the
another
orchestra?
thing he's doing for music. So he'll be with
Oh,
the
okay.
Baltimore, not Baltimore, the Chicago Philharmonic, doing some things. So
Oh wow. Okay.
yes, he'll be there. I'll just be nearby just in case. So I'll be working remotely and then
Okay.
hitting up some Zelda in the evenings. So
Are you bringing your
yeah,
Switch with you?
yeah, I bring the Switch. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
mean I
you
haven't played
are.
Zelda since I got Diablo. So
Right. Okay.
Zelda's missing me.
Gotta
So
show it
that's
some
what I'll be
love.
doing.
Yeah.
Show some love. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's that.
I haven't been on Diablo either since I left
You
to
got to
London.
catch up, sir. You got to
Oh,
catch up
dude,
while I'm
man.
gone.
Yeah, especially if the season's about to end and then I gotta start over again. I gotta at least finish the storyline.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
when the season ends, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, I mean, you're not in the season yet, so the first season
Oh,
starts mid
okay.
of July somewhere. So yeah, you're fine. Yeah, that
Okay.
story mode that you can keep, and then we'll start a whole new thing for the season. But anyway, y'all don't want to hear Diablo talk.
No,
Y'all
no.
want to
Yeah, yeah,
hear
yeah. That's something
Streaming
else
Wars talk.
later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I guess a little bit of history. It's interesting. I remember kind of when this streaming wars thing started. I think we could say around the time that Netflix decided they were going to kind of pivot from DVD only, and they kind of added the streaming piece, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
I know for me around that time, I was subscribed to Netflix with the DVDs. I wasn't using it very much just because you had to remember to mail them back.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me at that time, it was to me it was similar to the early days of music and MP3s, where I was still most of the time, finding ways to download stuff and watch it for free.
Right. Yeah.
Just
Hmm.
because, well, most because it wasn't convenient to like find it digitally at that time, even to buy it. Like
Yeah.
it just
Hmm.
wasn't very available. It was complicated. There's different little online stores, so I think at that time when Netflix brought the streaming around, I connected to that, and then I started kind of watching whatever was there. And at that
Hmm.
time, they had a lot of stuff on Netflix from other
Yeah. They did. Yeah.
companies. They had a lot of
Hmm.
Showtime shows. I remember a lot of
Yeah.
other stuff that was on there. So Stars was, I think, part of it for a while. So they used that to kind of build it up, and then they kind of used that, and then over time, they got big enough to where everyone else kind of started to look at them. I know
Tap
the one thing
into
that Netflix kind of pioneered was the idea of like the full season show dropping at once, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
Hmm.
think
that
House of
binge.
Cards was the first time they did that. I think it was House of Cards. If not, it was the other show they had first. I forget what it was. It was a foreign language show, but I can't recall. But anyway, I think the major one was House of Cards, where they released the whole season just in one hit, and you go binge it and watch it, and people loved it. Um,
Hmm.
and then since
Yeah.
then,
What
a
did
lot
you
has
all think of
happened.
that? Because concerning like the streaming wars, like I always thought one of their biggest weaknesses was the whole binging. I understand that they were. I don't know why they kind of wanted to cater to that. binge watching. So you didn't have, okay, so there's already the fact that you don't, if you're streaming, you don't have ads, right? Or at the time, if you're
Mm-hmm.
streaming, you didn't have ads. So that was already one thing. But then they just, maybe it was cheaper, I suppose, to do.
Well,
I didn't understand why they decided to kind of cater to this whole binging thing, because I
I know
thought
why.
at the very beginning, I thought, oh, this is a bad idea because, um, like after that, what are people going to like after they've been watched this entire series in a matter of weeks? What's going to keep them on the platform? Like, are you planning on really just rolling this stuff out?
Well,
Are you
that
planning on
was the
doing
plan.
seasonal? Yeah, and well, I saw
So
what they were doing. Um, excuse me, just spending money, trying to make all these. Well, Netflix was spending all this money, like spending a ton of money trying to make series. But then the problem was that they would just cut them after like one season or something like that. So and then they found themselves spending too much money on production. So like I feel like that from the start was just not a good idea. What do y'all think about that?
well, yeah. So like as far as like the binging thing, keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind when Netflix came into fruition or whatever you want to say, and they started doing everything online,
Yeah,
they were the only company out there doing that. Really, I think there was
yeah, but
another one, but they faded away. I can't remember the name.
Well, yeah,
But
no one at that time was doing was dropping new shows
mhm,
all at once in a season. Now there was still
right.
always like the backlog where you could just go stream it
yeah,
and watch, which I think caused them to see the behavior because they had the data on what we were watching on Netflix,
mhm,
so they saw how people would go and watch a season of a show in like a weekend, and
yep.
just consume the whole thing, which I think is why they
But they use
figured they
that to
would try it
separate
out and
themselves
see.
from. They use that as a thing to separate themselves from from the regular television watching experience. So you can watch a show on regular air television and get one episode a week or whatever, or you can come to Netflix and watch the whole freaking season of your favorite shows at the time because they wasn't like you said they wasn't making their own content yet. But you know of your favorite shows, stuff you probably already seen already. You can watch a whole season or pick an episode you want, any episode, you know.
Yeah, but I cannot be
And
the only one who thinks that that was just a bad. What do you call that? Business, not
well,
structure, but business.
Well, it's
it wasn't their content,
well, I think it
It
also
doesn't
depends
matter,
on like what you're trying to do. So the
right?
binging is very, it gives the customer the option, right? So
hmm
I can watch it, over time, or
Yeah.
I can just keep going. And also it allows for a little bit different type of storytelling where if they're liable to sit and watch all 8 episodes at once, then it can be a different type of story. Whereas if you expect that they would have to essentially come back after a week and start over again watching that episode, like so the way you structure things is different when you have released 8 episodes at once, which essentially is like a long movie versus kind of a serialized thing where it's put out kind of episodically week over week. The problem I think is what they've found is a lot of consumers consuming content is related to kind of culture and the group dynamic and water cooler conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
hmm
it's hard to maintain the hype of a show over a period of time if the season comes out all at once, because
Well,
that
I mean,
weekend everyone's talked about it,
right.
and
yeah.
then the next weekend you're
It's
kind of
done.
late if you're still talking about it because this kind of hype came out, everyone put the reviews out online, all the videos are
hmm
out, and then it's kind of done.
But I mean,
And
that's also another issue that I hadn't even considered. Like I was considering it from the point of view of what's going to bring these people back. So you're a subscription based model, which
hmm
then everything became subscription based, which means you have to continuously put out something that's going to get these people to want to remain subscribed. Otherwise, and this is the way I was thinking, just at the very beginning. I'm like, otherwise, I'm only going to subscribe because they were like having like free trials for however long.
hmm
I don't know if they still do that. But otherwise, I was like, I'm just going to subscribe for the free trial until I finish whatever season that whatever show that I want to watch, and then I'm going to cancel. You know, and that's what I don't know if that's what people started doing, but I'm just like this. but they did say that they had lost a huge number of subscribers, or Netflix said they had lost a huge number of subscribers. I don't know what the reasoning was, but I know
I
that,
know.
like, for example, my issue is, well, there's nothing else I want to watch on Netflix. Like, if
That
I
was the
don't
reason.
usually binge shows. I don't usually binge shows, but if it's a good show and they put out all a episode, like Heartstopper about to come out, I guarantee you I will binge that. but other shows, like,
I
I'll
don't
watch one or
usually,
two.
but when
Like,
I
there was
do,
that show that came out. And this is another problem. Like, I'm sorry, maybe I'm jumping ahead. I probably am just jumping ahead of us. But like, there was a show that came out with this, like, it was a kind of a lesbian storyline with a vampire and a vampire hunter.
I know what
I
you're talking
totally
about. I can't remember the name of it though.
Yeah,
Right.
I totally forgot the name of it. That was interesting. But anyways, that show I started watching. I watched like the first two episodes, and then I didn't watch the rest of it for 3-4 weeks, and then I watched a couple episodes, and then I stopped, and then not everybody watches TV the way I do, but I spread it out, so I'm not really usually a binge watcher, So I kind of felt like I felt like they kind of like shot themselves in the foot with this whole idea of
well,
let's focus on the binging sort of
when they
aspect, if that's
first,
really what they were looking at.
so you got like I was saying before, you got to understand when Netflix first started. Okay,
Yeah,
they were not making their own content. So what started hurting them, it wasn't binging in the beginning. Binging was actually a good thing because they wasn't making their content. They was just taking other people's content, licensing it, and putting it on their service so other people can watch it. When it started hurting them is when they started making their own content. That's the issue they're in now. They start making their own content and they're putting so much money into these things, like Cowboy Bebop. You know, I don't even know how much money they put in that, but I just know they put like millions of dollars in that, and it just flopped. And
yeah, but see, I think you're missing my point. My point is from a so I understand that they've also spent a lot of money trying to make good content. I
yeah, but
also understand
that's
that,
where
and that's
binging is hurting
another
them
point.
now.
But like what they were saying was they lost all of a sudden they lost however millions of
Yeah,
subscribers, right? So what I'm saying is at the very beginning, at the very outset, what type of business person would say we're going to be a subscription based model with the assumption that we can continue to produce bingeable content for
but but
eternity,
that's what I'm
because that's
saying.
how businesses are set up.
They
Well, so
wasn't producing content then.
yeah, if you look at
It
it
doesn't matter. I'm saying
from
putting
the
in
start, they were essentially doing DVDs, right? So
Yes,
right.
which
which is
which and
bingeable.
they kind of right and they basically just switched that same model to digital, which
Hmm.
was still
Right.
working. I think the goal originally was, hey, we'll have some original content to help bring people in, but really what keeps people here is this vast library, because people were
Yes.
subscribing to it before they had their originals, right? Because they wanted to be able to go on and watch who knows what show happened to be on Netflix that they happen to like, but there was enough
Yeah.
stuff there that, and there wasn't a lot of competition. So at the
Exactly. There was the
start,
big
hey,
fish.
there's a huge library. Plus, every so often there's a top tier show that I can binge watch. So I'll keep Netflix, right? Which was fine until all of a sudden we get all these other entries coming in. HBO was already out there, right, streaming, but they had a different model, right? HBO was more kind of a few shows, top tier, on their service, like Game of Thrones, right, that are once a week. Once that one's over, there's kind of a new kind of premium show that airs on Sunday or whatever that kind of keeps you with that,
So
subscription.
And okay, so I do see what you're saying. So you're saying that because of the way that they were established at first, which is how all movie like Blockbuster and
yep.
what was that? There was another one that existed. Like you'd have to have a subscription that you paid, not monthly, but I think yearly or something like that, or however it works. Maybe it was monthly. I can't remember. So that you can go to these places, pick a movie, and then take it back. So your subscription was kind of paying for the access to these movies that you're not necessarily binge watching. A movie is a movie, not a TV series, right? So you're saying that they assumed that transferring that model over to TV series, which at this point had always been episodic, right? Because everything up until this point was on TV, and the only problem was that they had, in America, they had a bunch of commercials. So you're saying they try to apply the same model, business model from the physical DVDs of these movies to digital, what up until this point had been episodic.
Well, I'm saying so.
TV
So
shows.
their DVD subscription model they had, people could get DVDs of shows or movies, whatever it
Yeah.
was, right? And people would subscribe $10 a month, whatever it was, and they would
Right.
just order DVDs and send them back, and they could see how people were watching things. So somebody might just keep ordering Seinfeld DVDs, right? And just in 3 or 4 weeks, just keep churning through them and watch all Seinfeld, or they watch all the series of some movie. And then once they got to digital, people doing the same thing with this library of content. They're paying a pretty low fee to have
Right.
access to just binge watch
You-
whatever they
you-
want, right?
No,
And so
no, when Netflix started, when they
Yeah.
went to digital, they were killing it. They were making money hand over fist. This was
Yes,
a
because
great
they were the
model,
only
'cause
one
they
at
had
the time that had a
Exactly.
digital library.
They was not make it costs way more to make your own content rather than to license
in some ways,
other people's
in some
content.
ways.
Yeah, in some way. Well, I mean, there's a lot. You got insurance for the shows.
Because the other piece is that making it themselves, they can distribute it worldwide,
Yep.
right? And because if you look at licensing for some of these content,
you
right?
can.
Yeah, they always let you.
It's a
bad.
mess trying to figure
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
paying for over here, and where if you make it yourself, you pay for it once, and I can distribute it to every country around the world.
Well, yeah,
which
it's
is
yours.
how they were able to spread Netflix around, because we make the show, and now we can show Korean shows we make over there, over here in the U.S., and this one over there, and it does very well. I mean, I think some 60% of Netflix subscribers have watched some minutes of like some of a Korean show. It's
Well,
like it's some huge amount, right? Where
Yeah.
so they're able to kind of use that money to make it in one place, and then it apply across the board. Yeah, I think to your point, Nate, their goal initially, which is a lot of companies, right? Their goal wasn't necessarily to make money, right? Their goal was to get subscribers, to make future money, right? So they're what they were doing was, what can we do to pull more subscriptions in, right? To eventually make this work, which worked for a period of time until we had these other companies out here making same level of content, and now all of a sudden people have more options. So before, there wasn't a need to like cancel Netflix just because House of Cards is over, because either I just keep it, subscribe to it or whatever, and just pay the $10 a month or whatever it was, or maybe I use it and I watch Friends or whatever other thing is relatively popular that I can just kind of put on background and watch for a while until the next big thing comes on Netflix. Then all of a sudden, go ahead.
So you think that the streaming wars was what really caused their downfall? You don't think that it was anything else?
Yeah, I think we lost him for a second. I guess we'll see if he
right.
see if he comes back.
Coming back, okay.
Right? Yeah, well, I think what happened was, I think the spending just became a little bit out of control.
That is true.
Just
That
across
is true.
the industry,
That
right?
was
Like everyone
absolutely ridiculous.
is just spending a lot of money
And let's not
because
talk about Prime and Lord of
yeah,
the Rings.
because it became also kind of a fight to figure out, how do we get these good writers and directors to come over to our platform?
Right.
And so you started giving them these nice bonuses and things. And that's also why a lot of these shows get canceled after 2 or 3 seasons, because they would give them bonuses each additional season. So season 1, maybe you get $100,000. Season 2, maybe you get $500,000, right? Season 3. And so at a point, that season 3 better be bringing in subscribers.
Right.
Otherwise, all of a sudden, it's no longer cost effective anymore. Whereas
Right.
it may have been doing just as fine as it was, but that's not enough now to maintain how much it now is now costing to make this
Due to
show.
their expenditures. Yeah. So
Right,
I did see
because we
that.
keep giving you bonuses based off of how many additional seasons. So that's why only a few of these shows keep going. That's why some shows get canceled so randomly. But
Hmm.
also, it's how they try to figure out what's popular. It's back to this binging thing. So even though even if they released it over time, they're still tracking how many people watch it that first weekend, how many of them
Right.
get how many part of the way through, and so all these metrics they use that we don't really see all the time
Yeah.
for them to figure out, hey, do people watch this? What's happening?
Yeah.
But now with all the choice, before it was, one subscription, 15, 10, whatever, $10, whatever it is, fine. Maybe I have one more. Maybe I have HBO or Showtime or some other thing, right?
Right.
Now we've got Paramount Plus and we've got Peacock has a free one, but also there's a subscription there. There's Hulu. There's Disney
Hmm.
Plus.
Yeah.
There's formerly HBO Max, which is now Max. There was Discovery Plus, which is part of that now. Um, so now you have all these options, and now it becomes okay. Now people are starting to try to figure out which ones do I pay for which month,
Right.
and so that's where it becomes where the binging thing becomes almost more of a liability.
Yeah.
Only for people that care about being with kind of the popular culture, you know.
Okay.
Welcome back, Tim.
Yeah. You decided to go get a snack? Oh, got no. Okay.
Yeah. He's working on it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's interesting. So one thing that I do see sometimes is, let's say a show like I'll even use say Succession as the example, right? This show on HBO released weekly.
Yeah.
If you want to really be on top of things and be part of the culture of watching Succession, then you have to subscribe to HBO and watch it every week, right? Those 8,
Right.
12, whatever weeks are,
Right.
for to be part of the collective watching experience, because it's kind of a episodic thing. If you
Right.
don't care about that experience, you just want to watch a good show, then you can wait until that season is over or even the series is over. Subscribe to HBO,
Yeah.
binge it, and then
Right.
be done. And so your
Right.
personal experience is fine if you're not trying to be part of the culture around watching the thing in real time, which
Right.
these kind of weekly shows tend to produce. Right? There's recaps come out weekly on
Right.
websites and YouTube, and it's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be part of that in real time, you got to subscribe during that time period, and then
Yeah.
you
But
still
see,
might
yeah,
cancel it.
I feel you. I mean, I understand that, and I understand your analysis, or both of y'all's analysis about like how they started, and I understand that, but I don't think that I would agree. Like if I was in that board meeting, whatever board meeting, however many board meetings there were, I don't think I would have agreed in the beginning. I don't think I would have been like, let's support the binge watching, the binge watching idea. Yeah, I do know that that's one of their. I read up on that actually like a few months ago, about one of their indicators of how they know a show is going to be, get a second season. For example, there are people, there are companies actually that help track that. But when I was saying that they should have just continued with the episodic method that like TVs were doing, just in the absence of ads or publicity or whatever. I was like, this is. I don't know why. I just knew that it was just a better idea, but to me, I just was like, well, it just makes more sense because it will keep people. If people are coming here for your TV series, right? Because they went from movies to movies and TV series. So unless the movie was already out on DVD, right? So there was no original content for there was no original content that they were putting out at the time. So I'm just like, I think I would have just kind of stuck with the current way that things are going. Just remove ads, and the reason why is because if these people, a lot of people were signing up to streaming because of the TV series that were available, like no ads, right?
But
And so I would have,
yeah,
but also I'm not the only one who thought this apparently, because Amazon started doing it, Disney started doing it. Like the only ones that didn't do it.
So
I mean, actually, Netflix did it with a couple series, and I don't know the data beyond that, but
yeah,
otherwise they didn't. Yeah.
So hold on. So keep this in mind, okay? Like I said before, Netflix, they had no competition. Actually, Christian said that part. I agree with him. They had no competition. They was a big fish in the ocean by themselves. They didn't need structure. And the binging thing was the thing that brought customers to them.
Oh, that I don't know. Are you sure that binging was the thing that brought them to him?
Yes. They was happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, at the time,
you want to watch
if you look at it from a consumer perspective, right? Like people really love being able to just watch the whole show. Like I remember a lot talking about, like people were loving that concept. So I think from a consumer perspective, having that option in some ways was something consumers liked, even though. Right, it's a net negative for the subscription model because again, subscription model needs.
Well, this is my point.
A slow drip. I agree.
At the time, so you're looking at the subscription model.
No, any subscription model.
Okay, when there's other fish
any subscription model is like that.
No, because here's the thing. Any subscription.
Yes, it is. You have to have something that they're going to come back for. You have to,
dude. I'm telling you, Netflix had it at the time. What the thing was. They didn't have any competition. So their model was, here, we got a lot of stuff that we are licensing from other companies. Come and watch as much as you want. That was their model. And it made them money.
Listen, the way that I think when it comes to business is I think to myself, when I see a business model or any plan, I think to myself, is that sustainable? Like, is that going to be sustainable for the long run? Because, like, when you study business, they tell you businesses are created to be forever. Like, that's how they started, right? Which, I mean, you can agree or disagree with that. It kind of makes sense, but sometimes you'd be like, no, but you don't want to spend all this money to start up a business and that it just go down the drain. So when I'm thinking of it as, is this sustainable? So like I was saying, when I'm thinking of how this is set up, I'm like, okay, fine. They don't have a competition. That's fine. But are you still going to be able to, do you think can you conceive of a situation where you're able to continue to produce content that will keep these people, no, that's how you would have to think, that would keep these people, involved in your subscription model for the long term. Like that is how you would have to think. So now they have access to this entire library of information. I was thinking of a library actually, but it's entire library of like digital content, right? But as it goes, one thing that apparently that they maybe didn't realize is that even though Netflix has been, in my opinion, one of the top companies, streaming companies, to optimize their kind of search results and use AI to kind of help you find information. Content that will go along with your interests and stuff like that. It's still got a long ways to go to kind of suggest things for you that you would actually really like to watch, right? So they're lacking that type of information already, right? So even though they have this data that says, oh, people like to binge watch, yeah, but for how long? And is this really the same content that they're going to like? Because tastes change, right? So from like people now are in this like horror genre. A lot of people are. That's according to That's according to statistics now. This is also kind of the reason why people were saying, one of the reasons why they were saying that Bros didn't make it because it was a romantic comedy, which is not being promoted as such. I mean, as much. And then also for, sitcoms weren't, people are they're trying to make a comeback, but people aren't really watching sitcoms because they're just not in this thing. So they didn't have all of this information apparently, or if they did, they chose to ignore it. So I'm saying, is what you all are planning to do sustainable in the long term? And in my opinion, it just was not sustainable. I just felt like, and then on top of that, you can't assume that you're always going to be the big fish in the ocean. You can't assume that you're the only one that you're going to have a monopoly on this. It doesn't make any sense. So either way, either way that you cut it, it didn't make sense to me. They're making a lot of assumptions that I feel like they could have. I'm really hard on Netflix, I know, but I feel like they also are not learning from their mistakes.
No, they are. They are. But
I'm gonna say, I think they are, and I think one thing that is happening is, as a result of all this competition, everyone was just dumping money into it. Everyone, I think, is now realizing this is very expensive, and we've kind of reached the plateau of new subscribers, right? It's almost like at this point, everyone is just shuffling around the services. Like for a while, it was kind of a net influx of people subscribing to streaming services. Like it was just
right.
As a whole, streaming was getting more subscribers. I think from what I've been seeing at this point, it's kind of plateaued. And so now they're just shuffling people around between the subscriptions, which means it's just you have to spend the money differently, and also now you're competing more directly with these other companies, and so now you see they're going back to one big thing is ads, right? And I'm seeing that the ads things in two different ways. One is a lot of them are adding ad tiers. Now Hulu already had it for the whole time, so did like Paramount and Peacock, right? They already had kind of ad tiers, even paid ad tiers, right? You can have few ads, and then you can have no ads, right? Or you can have like all the ads you want and it's free, but it's a whole bunch of ads. So that there's that piece, which Netflix also has, right? Netflix has the ad tier that they added around the same time that they started cracking down on the password sharing thing, which from what I've seen, it kind of was it kind of worked out for them. They've got subscribers going up.
The ads, you mean?
Both things. So the ad tier is getting a good amount of subscribers. Also, the paid tier, once they crack down on passwords, those subscribers actually went up because people were having to pay for their own, which, that
did those go up? I wanted to see what the results were. I saw that and I was just like, okay.
It has gone up. So, it hasn't gone up by the same amount, or, I'm not sure how the numbers work, but it is seeming to be doing something. But the other thing that's happening is these companies like Warner Brothers is the biggest example of this, of just removing stuff from their service and going back to licensing it back out. Because originally, as I mentioned, Netflix, that's kind of how Netflix grew, was, hey, we license from Showtime and Stars or whatever, and we show it on here. We pay you and we show it here. Cool. Now Warner Brothers is trying to tighten the budget, and Warner Brothers is like, look, we can't even afford to stream it to show it on our own service. We would rather not pay for it and get paid for it. So they're taking it off, or sometimes dual showing. So I saw just this week, the show Insecure from HBO is now on Netflix, and there's going to be several other ones of HBO originals on Netflix. Also, Warner Brothers is adding a lot of their shows to these ad services. So things like Freevee or Tubi, those are also very popular because those are just ads. It's free. You go on there and watch. There'd be a channel for, Andy Griffith, a channel for Night Court, whatever, right? And so shows that HBO removed from their service, HBO, Warner Brothers, the company, the parent company, they took off of HBO Max now completely. Like it's not even on there anymore. But they're going to start showing up on these free services. So Amazon, which owns, I think Freevee is theirs, right? So they have that free one, Freevee, so they can now run ads on there, get ad revenue, we're licensing, say, Raised by Wolves from HBO, which doesn't have it
Right.
anymore. You know, so all this stuff is getting so so enmeshed now. Whereas you saw them kind of everyone first, Netflix kind of grew, right? Then all of a sudden, everyone else saw that happen and yanked their stuff off of Netflix.
Yeah,
Right.
so that was
like-
bad too.
They're like,
That
you know
was-
what? You can't have
Disney, when
friends.
Disney did that,
We're taking it. Disney grabbed their stuff off when they had Disney Plus, right?
Yeah,
Like all the Marvel, you know, everyone started taking their stuff away, having their own thing.
yeah, that was painful.
And now a lot of them are like, all right, this is
Screwed up.
becoming a lot.
This ain't
We
worth
need
it.
to diversify and really change the bottom line. Now, what's interesting is that it looks like Disney, well, Disney started this now because I saw Disney. I haven't seen them put their stuff anywhere else yet.
Yeah,
But one thing I did see is that Avatar was on HBO and Disney, which could just be
Okay.
because of the way it was produced. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But also several Disney Plus original shows that were on there from the beginning, they took off. There are
Oh.
a few like documentary
you were saying.
things, and
Okay.
and they just took it off.
wow.
And what that means is now you can't watch it anywhere. And so one thing I
Right.
wanted to ask you guys about is just
Yeah.
in this digital realm of not only are you not buying your own digital copy, which is also risky in some way, but now these services are starting to take their own content off the internet. Like, how you guys feel about that?
I don't care if it's not something I watch. I don't really care. If it is something,
Well, I mean,
watch,
obviously,
then I'll
you
have
don't
to
watch it,
buy
you
a
don't care,
DVD.
but
Yeah.
well, if it's on DVD,
I mean, that's a consumer bias. You know, if it's not something I
Yeah.
watch, I don't care. But
well, if somebody watches it, then they can be
You
the
know?
ones that are outraged. Like I can't be outraged for everybody. You know.
I mean, you can't be aroused for you can't be outraged for everything, of course. But just the concept or the idea that if this company deems, and this is why I don't like video games as a service either. It's the same thing. If this company deems that this thing doesn't make as much money as they want, and they, gone.
Yeah.
You never see it again. Just
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Disappears out of existence. You know, I don't like that idea. That's why when even with like I said before, like video games as a service, when they was like all pushing that, I said this is not a good thing. This is going to turn into Netflix all over again. And
Now clarify
once,
what you mean by
you know,
video games
competition.
as a service. So because I'm thinking you're talking about stream, but I don't think you're talking about stream. I mean, that's what comes to my mind. Steam, sorry. Good grief.
So-
I'm thinking you're talking about Steam, but I don't know if you're.
so okay,
Yeah.
let's go there.
Yeah.
Steam. In its concept, it's basically Netflix you can play.
Right, but you don't pay
Now
for Steam.
they are competing with Sony.
well,
don't
so
pay for Steam.
Huh?
so
Yeah, you pay
Steam
for,
essentially you're purchasing a digital
Yeah,
license to play a game.
Yeah,
Right.
but on
So what-
their
Now, what I have seen with Steam is sometimes things get removed from the Steam store, but as long as you've already purchased it, you
right,
still have access to it,
right.
Sure.
and you can still download it and still use it as long as you
Right.
already purchased it before it's taken from the store.
Right,
But they just
but-
can't sell it anymore.
Right, but this what Tim's talking about is my question. So
Okay, so I'll correct on Steam then. But as far as Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo,
so you're talking about like game passes and stuff like
they're
that.
based.
Yeah, so
Game
so
Passes and stuff, right?
Game Pass is
Where
a
you-
good example because Game Pass, for the most part, anything that Microsoft themselves publish is on Game Pass forever, right? But other
Yeah,
things,
right?
other things they rotate on. So for a while they had like a lot of the Final Fantasy games, right? They came on there. It might come on this month, and then after about 12 months, it rotates back off. So you kind of know, hey, the thing's on here. If it's Microsoft, I should have it forever. But
Right.
anything else is kind of in a rotating thing that'll come and go. Now,
Right.
Microsoft did take off. I forget what game it was that they published that they did recently take off of there. Now, at least in this case with the gaming, the things coming off of Game Pass, you can still purchase it, and it's very easy. And while it's
Right.
on Game Pass, you get a discount. So if you're playing it on Game Pass and you're like, I like this game, I know it's going to leave at some point, you get like 20% off or whatever if you want to go ahead and purchase it for yourself. Which would be an interesting thing for Netflix to do if they knew things were going to be leaving soon. If you could just buy it before it left, that might be an interesting model, I think, for someone just to go ahead and have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Because I guess what gets scary is we've gotten so used to things just being available. Because if you look at music is a very different example of this, whereas the music streaming services, for the most part, they have a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like Tidal may have some specific things. Sometimes Spotify or someone will have certain things licensed, but for the most part, most things are on all services. What you're paying for is the experience and certain features, but it's everywhere.
Right.
But there's still certain things that aren't on any of them. Like some old, I remember some old school CDs and stuff.
Yeah,
like I tried to find some old things, like some old
CDs.
Like the CD is gone.
Yeah.
And no one ever made it digital. And if they did, it was never digital in any of the digital stores, right? So not even like iTunes Store or like a streaming thing. Yeah. So literally,
I know the pain.
It's gone. But again, I think to me, it's part of our expectation. Meaning, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have expected it to just be available forever in the store, right. Even a CD or an album, right? Like you need to go buy it and have yours. Because you don't think is okay. I'm coming 30 years and go buy it from the store. Like that's not how things in the store work, right? Like they go away.
But I mean, to your question, like I guess this is a very personal question, obviously, because for me, I only ever would have bought something that I really wanted to buy. And if it disappeared and then, 10 years down the line, or actually that happened with this book that I was trying to find. It just kind of disappeared. Like it was just, even digitally, I couldn't find it anywhere. I can't find it, which is sad for me. But then I'm just like, well, that happens. So I don't, it's sad, but I also, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'll be able to find it eventually someday. Somebody is going to unearth it, digital copy that we're going to put it on. Yeah, just, you'll find it, especially if I went on eBay, which I didn't. So, my very personal feeling about it is just like, if it's gone, it's gone. But if there's something I really want, like, for example, on, Netflix, there's a series called, I forgot what it's called. Shadow and Bone? No.
Oh, yeah. I still haven't watched that show.
It's an older series. It was based off of a TV show, like where they're like Shadow Hunters. Is that what it's called? Something Hunters. It's a... Oh, God. Let me look it up. I think it's called whatever. Anyways, I know I'm like, I really want this show, and I can't remember the name of it, but
it's great.
ADHD.
Whatever it is,
so.
it's awesome. My favorite show to be named.
It's obvious that
no one knows. Yeah, it's called Shadowhunters. Yes. So that show I would like, because there's also a different show. Movie. I think there's a movie, but this is a show that I would like to get if they ever stop streaming that, so I'd have to, but I know that this is out on DVD, so I think it's out on DVD actually, now that I say that.
Right.
Yeah. But no, I don't think I would personally have an issue with it because like you said, it never was the case before. I don't think I'm conditioned to having it at all times,
Right.
So.
Yeah. I find that the one thing that I think has been jarring for a lot of people, seemingly, but especially me, is I'm used to things going away, even on streaming, right? Things just kind of disappear, whatever. What I haven't been used to is these companies that have their own streaming service and make their own original content, and then removing that content. Because
that's kind of rough, right?
The expectation is, hey, if I'm paying for HBO, then HBO stuff should be there. Like I shouldn't have to go look for that. Same thing with Netflix, right? And so if all of a sudden you just delete it, then I'm like, wait a minute, like the expectation was that you would have this stuff forever. I didn't think you would rotate it out. Like with Warner Brothers, a lot of their like animated stuff, like a lot of the like some like Adult Swim cartoons and stuff. Like I know like for one was Infinity Train, right? I remember that was on there. Now, that's something that I never watched it, but it was something that was in my head. Like I would watch it at some point,
Right.
Some weekend I'll go and watch it, and they just yanked it off.
Right.
And now it's literally nowhere.
Right.
right?
That's
You know,
fine times.
like not even
Yeah.
like I don't think it even got put on Blu-ray. Like one of the things where there's because again to print on Blu-ray is money, and if no one's buying them, they
Right.
don't really do that anymore. So
Right, exactly.
now
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you were the custodian of the thing, and I paid to have access to your stuff, and
Yeah.
you were like, it costs too much for us to maintain it, so we're just going to delete it from the internet, and then it's
Yeah.
gone. And like, and people had to go find essentially like go back to the dark ages of hey, I'll go find a torrent and someone has it, and but like that's the only way to do it. Like I could like you couldn't even legally watch it any other way. Like that's the only way. And I'm like,
Right.
you know, now we're getting back to the way that we squashed the music piracy. Right, was making it easy. Same with video piracy, right? Like,
Yeah.
once it became trivial to just click and pay 99 cents for the song,
Right.
most people were like, okay, I'll just pay 99 cents for a song, right? Like, it's not worth the risk of trying to
Right.
go download it illegally when I can just,
Yeah,
I can just pay
music
for it.
is
And then they became streaming, and so
totally
we kind of
different.
got rid of the piracy. But I think if we start getting back to all of a sudden we're like removing ways to legally get the stuff,
Right. Yeah.
I feel like people are going to start looking for, hey, like,
Oh, but that's also absolutely true. Yeah.
how am I supposed to do this?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
I
want
agree.
to pay you to look at it.
Right.
If you won't let me, then I got
Yeah.
to find some other way. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that because I mean, it's just like with anything. Yeah, if a person wants something bad enough, they're going to find a way to get it. Yeah,
They're gonna find a way.
So like, if you're not making it, I remember before MP3s became a thing, and before the streaming services and stuff like that, when we were like downloading everything like on Napster and stuff like
Exactly.
that. And I remember telling myself,
Oh gosh.
well, you know what? If they just made these things available on, digitally, because no one wants to go out and buy the whole CD all the time. I don't usually listen to the whole CD of anything unless it's Michael Jackson, right? So like, I was just like, I don't want to download the whole CD. I just want this song, sort of thing. You make
Yes.
it easier to download. I mean, get to if it's MP3, it costs less. I'm okay with that, but. Then they did. You started the streaming service. So I signed up with a streaming service. Like I have Apple Music. Yes, I have Apple Music, and I haven't pirated since. But
Right.
you're absolutely right. Like if they took that away and they decided that they were just going to make it more difficult to obtain this stuff that I want, yeah, I probably would go back to pirating. I mean, I'm not saying I would, but I probably would.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Well, okay, then I have a question. Okay, so you're saying like it's like it's like $1 for like
Yeah,
a song. Or
it wasn't
something,
99 cents,
song, right?
Not a
$1
dollar,
or two.
99 cents.
Yeah.
But I think now it's more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But with that same idea, how much do you think it would be for a show, or not a show because that's many episodes, but like a movie? Because you couldn't do that with a show. You can't say I just want to see this episode of Seinfeld.
Which
That's
you
all I want.
can now.
Episode
Could.
22.
And yeah,
You could.
I mean-
Because let me tell you, let me give y'all a little anecdote. There was this show that came out. I'll keep this PG, but there was this show that came out, and it had one episode where I didn't need the background. I didn't need the backstory.
the one episode,
All I wanted was that one episode, and I got it. Okay, so
right? Yeah. And well, the thing is, it feels like, as far as the pricing of like digital movies and TV shows, it still feels a little bit high to me. Like they're still trying to match the cost of like Blu-rays and DVDs. And in some way, I don't know, because it just feels like, okay, it's a digital thing. Like, why is it still costing me $20? Which I get the physical disc and stuff really doesn't cost that much, so not a
Right.
huge difference. But still, I
wait.
think
So what's your question now?
well, I guess I'm wondering if in all of this they might start to reduce the cost of purchasing this digital content in order to increase some of the volume, because I think as things start disappearing, I feel like there might be an appetite for people to start like trying to buy stuff, because one thing I do enjoy is that most of the major studios are part of Movies Anywhere. Are you guys subscribed to that?
Okay. No,
Basically what it
so-
does is it connects all your digital video services. So like Amazon. If you buy like via Vudu, I think Fandango has like all those like ones where you can like iTunes. So all these Google Play as well. So all these stores where you can digitally buy movies. If you buy it in one, it appears in all of them. So essentially, it applies that same license to all those stores. Now, it's not every. I know like Lionsgate doesn't do it. I noticed. So like Tyler Perry stuff isn't going to be on there and some other things, right? But a lot of major studios are part of this. So you buy it in one, you grab it across. So let's say I buy it iTunes, open Google Play, it's over there. Open up Vudu, it's there. And so I can just watch it in whatever app I want, or the Movies Anywhere app. But again, I purchased it once and have it everywhere. So I don't have to buy it 5 times depending upon where I got it from. Same, it also includes Microsoft as well. So again, if I buy it on the Xbox, part of the whole thing, which I think is great if they could expand it. But I think also right now it's just if the movies were a little bit cheaper on there, you know, I might be willing to start buying more of them and also series just so I know. Okay, now I have it. Given the uncertainty right now, so I think right now, given the uncertainty of these things. It's the opportune time to give people some certainty. Hey, you can go ahead and buy your own, you know, and
that's one. No, I agree. I 100% agree. That's one thing. Like I think you said this a little earlier, where like with Netflix, and you know, I wished Netflix would have started moving into that. You know, like hey, you know, these shows that we have digitally here for you, you know. We also, if you want one, you should be able just to go, you know, because you have an account with Netflix. You should be able just to go, click on the show, and they should have an option to buy it.
Yeah, I agree.
And they just send it to you. That I think that.
Well, not send it to you. They don't need to send it to you. They just keep a digital copy.
No, I mean they can.
Yeah, you just.
I mean they should give you an option
to mail it to you because then that'd be more expensive.
Like they're either. Well, no.
You a flash drive or something, or
of course.
That would be even more expensive.
Well, because
mail you a paper saying now you own it, I guess.
No, because you know, like
no, I mean, like there are people who want Blu-rays. Okay,
so you're saying within Netflix they have the option to like buy the Blu-ray or buy the digital or whatever, because essentially, I mean that's what Amazon has, right? So Amazon Video, like they have it all there. So that's. Because that's
but not everything that's on Amazon Prime is on DVD though.
Correct. But like if it is, then you have the option
more options
interface to go ahead and purchase it.
So. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
And I think Netflix should move in that direction because, like, you know, everybody says the streaming wars are over. No, they're not. They're just changing. They've always been changing. First, they started out as who had the biggest library, right? That was the most important thing. Then it changed to like what shows these companies were producing on their own, you know. Then Disney came into play, and Disney brought in the whole one episode, you know, dropping one episode a week, you know, to keep people in their, you know, in their on their site watching all their other stuff, which they allow you to binge, except for their new things. So all these companies still have binging, right? All they're doing is they're trying to find a way for the newest things, stuff that they are producing, to keep you stay.
But that was my argument at the beginning. Because if you have a library on a streaming platform, you're going to promote binging because once your series is over, anybody can watch it, rewatch it again, blah 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 blah. My point wasn't, you know, down with binging. I'm saying that's not where I don't think that's where they should have built. Any of these companies should build their idea, because the problem is you just present too many issues with retaining people unless you're the sole company that has this. And then again, that's stupid to think that you're going to be the only people here forever. You know, doing this streaming service. That's absolutely ludicrous. So that was my point. My point is, if you want to grab these people, these subscribers, and keep them there, you keep them. You do just what TVs did. Like you don't have to mess with something that has been working for however long the TV shows have existed on television. You just simply, all you're doing is removing the ads. and but you're still, keeping them there for an entire season, coming back for it, and it makes more sense for the people to remain subscribed than to subscribe each month. They'll be losing money, right? So that's all I was saying.
Yeah,
I was saying that is something that I would have thought of because, well, that's what I thought of, and then I saw these other streaming companies doing it, and I was like, okay, well then I don't think I was wrong. I just don't understand why Netflix is not jumping on that bandwagon.
Well,
some of their shows they do, right? But yeah,
but very few.
Yeah, I think they're trying to still be differentiated by doing that, right?
Yeah.
So at this point now, they're kind of the different one because they're still doing it that way. Where all the newer services are doing it the old way.
Keep in mind too. Also, Netflix is this thing, right? Then the next competition they was competing against was who? Amazon. This other thing. Okay, neither one of these companies at the time when they came in, right? They wasn't producing it. Okay, they didn't start really producing anything until Disney.
But see, this is the problem.
When Disney came in,
you keep focusing on like production. I'm not worried about production. I don't care about whether they're producing it.
Production, it makes you change stuff because. So here's the thing: when you have a license from another company, right? They tell you what you can do with their product. It's like
Netflix. If they were putting it on Netflix would just simply tell them it's going to be episodic. Like this is how we're going to do it. I mean, this is what Disney did as well. So it's not like they're not.
No, but
yes, it is.
Disney did that with their own stuff.
Yeah, but I'm saying
that's the difference.
What I'm saying is because Amazon did it as well. Like you can do this. So what was happening was that Netflix.
Amazon didn't do it, not with other people's stuff.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Amazon didn't. They didn't drop episodic licensed material. They dropped episodic.
Yeah, episodic.
Do you know about that?
Yeah, like they did this. They did this to. They did this for the what is it? Circle. What is it? Circle
Unless
of Time.
Brand new.
They did this for. Tim. Again, we're still talking about the new.
Those are Prime owned shows.
Yeah, that's Prime owned stuff.
And the same thing, like for example,
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about license. I'm talking about licensed material.
Yes.
A lot of people forget that Netflix didn't produce anything until Stranger Things.
They had stuff before that. Stranger Things was later. They had House of Cards.
I mean,
there was a lot of stuff before Stranger Things.
Yeah, there was
now.
Yeah, you're right.
They have a lot of stuff now. As far as popular stuff, that's one of the more popular. Now they've been producing a lot of stuff for a long time.
They didn't produce Shadow Hunters, but Shadow Hunters that was being produced, they also agreed. I mean, they also put the shows on Netflix at the time that they were also airing. So it was
Yep.
one at a time.
Few of those,
right? Yeah, they like I said, they were doing it, but they weren't doing it en masse. Like they weren't doing. I feel like the way they should have been doing it from the beginning, which is the way TV shows do it, right? So Netflix is the one that told these studios, we're going to basically we're going to buy your products so that people can binge watch them. Like Netflix is the one that decided that, not the studios. The studios were hired to create whatever the show was, and they were told it's got to be eight episodes long or 12 episodes long. Like they were given this information by Netflix. So they could have said they could have decided that they were going to put it out by episode or not. Like that was up to them. They just chose not to. Like Chris said, perhaps it's because they just wanted to kind of be different from the other people. But again, from my point of view, from the way that I'm thinking, I would have been like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's going to be hard to maintain that, basically. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's going to be
definitely hard to maintain for sure. And what's interesting to me is it comes down to a lot of ways, like the consumer versus like what the business is trying to do. Because I don't think we need everything to be bingeable, but there is some value in certain stories are better told in a bingeable format, right? Whereas if I watch 8 episodes in a more compressed time period, is a different feel versus
Yeah.
watching one every week, depending on how the story is told, right? And so if the production company knows, hey, this is gonna be dropped all at once, they're able to tell a story differently than they know this is going to be in 13 chunks over 13 weeks. So I've heard different interviews where people are like, okay, that allowed me to look at it differently and be creative in a different way. I mean, there's even shows where the episodes are even like you watch them in any order. I think one is called Kaleidoscope, where it's just you just watch them whatever order you want to, but you can't do that kind of show if it's week by week, right? So,
But see, that's interesting too, because that is also another type of production style. So like you would have at that point kind of like a mix of different things that you're putting out on your show, which could be a way to differentiate, but you would still need, even if you did that, even if you're like, okay, even if Netflix was like, for these producers, what's your story going to be? We need some sort of story. And they're like, oh, I want to do it this way. Is it going to be bingeable, or is it going to be episodic, or whatever? I mean, they're all episodic, but if it's going to be week by week, or if it's going to be a bingeable show, and then they negotiate that, Netflix is saying 1/3 of our shows are going to be week by week. One third of our shows are going to be daily. Like that's also something that I wondered why Netflix never did, was like soap operas or like telenovelas or something like that. I was like, that would have been a great way to keep, again, one more way to just keep your audience, or your subscriber, and then you have another one that's going to be completely bingeable. Is that what I said? Bingeable, week by week,
right,
and then daily, sort of thing. So like you have a mixture of all these things that is going to keep your subscribers, because that's the idea, keep your subscribers coming back or staying, I suppose, and then bring in new subscribers. And one of their biggest issues at the time was one of the biggest issues, because they have multiple issues, Netflix, was that, they just lost a ton of subscribers kind of all at once,
Yeah, because they started competing with.
Yeah, but that's not. This is not a reason why they lost their thing. Because the thing is, what the problem is, what you're saying is, because we got competition, now we have to think better about our company.
Well, what I'm saying is they didn't have a model for competition.
Again, stupid. That's not good business planning, right? You cannot go into business thinking we're the only ones doing this. No,
who thought that cell phone companies was going to make a streaming service?
What do you mean?
At the time, iPhone.
No,
Apple.
you can't go in there thinking.
They didn't think Apple was going to. They probably didn't think about that. And I agree.
When you start,
that they should have thought about.
When you start a company, you do a SWOT analysis. You do check to see what the exterior. Oh, good grief! What is it? SWOT. It is.
But But so to be fair, then, so
like
that
threats, essentially, right?
Thank you. Threats.
Yeah. During that time when Netflix started going streaming, honestly, tell me who. Like, if you were to think about it now, like who was showing evidence of being. I
think the next point is that they should have been more aware that threats could happen and have contingencies. Yes. Now, what we don't know is, did they expect a drop of that amount for some period of time and had planned for it? And was any of this a surprise, or is it just a foreseen dip? Right? Because even companies, they'll say, "Hey, look, we forecast next quarter we're going to be down because of this reason." It doesn't mean they didn't plan. It just means, hey, look, like this is going to happen because of the environment. Now we have plans around how to mitigate this, and we have plans for how we get through it afterwards. But this is going to happen because of.
Did they mitigate that though? I mean, million.
What it means, I don't know. I mean, overall, right? Yeah, you lost them, right? But again, is that something that was preventable? Like, I'm not sure, right? Like, it could be, hey, look, we had way more subscribers than is really reasonable. And so there's going to be kind of a correction at some point, even like stock, right? Like there's going to be a correction at some point where it's going to come back down to probably what it should be. And so we should just know, hey, when this happens, here's what the plan is going to need to be to then kind of maintain or get back where we got to go.
That's true.
I'm not sure.
That.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, and then on top of that, could they really mitigate that? Hey, our competition are going to be companies that already are in a space where they are making billions.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and they're going to drop.
It doesn't matter who.
Extra
right?
millions.
I mean, I'm sure that
to make competition.
I'm sure there's models around. Hey,
I mean, how do you mitigate that?
Hey, look, like we foresee in X industry, competition will arise at some percentage of our gross subscriber base, and which will reduce our revenue by X percentage, approximately, given just the environment. We don't know who it's going to be, but we're going to contingency that somebody is going to do this. Given we're all in conversation with people, we know Disney planning to take stuff off our service in 2 years. We know all the licenses are all coming due at this time. Like they knew stuff was kind of happening, and they knew the target.
Well, I mean, they knew that they was going to have to. Yeah, they knew they was going to have to. But I don't think that. Like, I don't think they said just because these licenses was going to expire. I mean, because you got to remember how long before Disney, how long Netflix been around. So they've had licenses expire, and then they work out the license agreements, and they have them back on the service. Okay. So I don't think they was thinking that every time someone's going to expire that it was the service going to pop up. Now I know they know rumblings and that networks are going to start coming up and stuff. Okay, at that time, yeah, but I mean, you got to understand, like Netflix is Netflix, and that's all it is.
No,
okay?
because Netflix.
So once they stop losing subscribers,
Netflix.
They don't have their income drops. They're not going to be able. They're having a hard time competing against companies whose income does not come from streaming. They come from the products that they actually sell otherwise, and they just pour.
But the problem is, see, the way that you talk makes it sound like Netflix kind of invented TV and movie, which they didn't. So yeah, but this is the problem. So you can't assume as a company, you're like, oh, okay, we're going to, we're now in the age of digital. So now we're just going to just start putting things on digital, where their TV, what do you call that? They're like TV broadcasting. I can't think of the words now. Like broadcasting, like channel, like networks? Companies or whatever, that are making TV shows, and you can't think that they're just going to remain analog while we walk into the digital world. Like it doesn't logically make any business sense. You can't assume that they're going to remain. Okay, so I mean, some companies will, but
so let me tell you about this story about how we lost. You guys know how we lost Blockbuster, right?
Because they refused to go into the digital era, yes.
Because they thought it was laughable to go digital. They thought it was the most hilarious thing. They literally shot themselves in the foot. And
so did Hollywood Video.
Because
Hollywood Video, that's the one I was thinking of.
Hollywood Video, Blockbuster, all of them. They thought that was the dumbest thing to put videos on the computer.
Well, before that, they weren't even mailing it, right? They were trying to stick to the store model.
Right. Yeah.
And Redbox started eating it already before even Netflix, really.
Yeah, Redbox. I was going to say because Redbox existed before Netflix. So Netflix wasn't an inventor, right? They just took something and they ran with it. But you can't assume, and it's folly to assume, that you're going to be the only one doing this. Especially knowing that if it succeeds, someone else is definitely coming, nipping at your.
Now
that's how you do it. So when you realize that you're onto something, and you realize that this is going to succeed, you definitely have to continue planning. You have to figure out how it is that you can mitigate any of these. You can't stop competition from coming in. You just want to kind of mitigate losing as much your
But
subscribers to
sometimes
other
mitigating,
people.
right?
And one of the ways to mitigate is just
sometimes-
to conceive of what is it that we can do to entice these people to continue to come back. Like there's a very simple, maybe hard to answer, but a very simple question to ask yourself: what can we do to prevent to keep our subscribers subscribed to us as opposed to going to them? You know, one thing.
And I think they did that at the time was that, and that's what I'm saying. So back then, the thing to mitigate things like that was who had the biggest library of content. That's what was bringing the people back. You know, that's what when Netflix started competing against Amazon at first. That's what they was competing about, the library size. If you think about all the commercials you hear, you used to hear Amazon saying, we got the biggest library. Netflix, we got the biggest library. That was the competition at the time. And that's what they were competing about. As time went on, the competition changed. But what happened was, just like Amazon, you get companies where their main source of income is not streaming. So they're just pouring money into it. Amazon's main source of income is streaming.
Netflix.
So they are turning into the
Yeah.
I
I got you.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Netflix. So at the time they were the biggest fish, but they're becoming the smaller fish because this is their main source of income. They don't have another company, their parent company, just pouring money into them to supplement for their losses.
Well,
Because,
it doesn't matter whether they
not.
have that or not because it.
No, that makes a big. That's like
Well, it
right
makes
now,
a big
okay?
it makes a big difference in
and
the
I know-
short run,
It makes a
but in the
big
long run,
difference.
it cannot
In the long run.
it's not
It makes a
sustainable.
big difference.
So, like, you can't have a business spending as much. Well, technically, you can because Costco does it apparently, but in general, you cannot have one like a parent company paying for a daughter company in the long run because they will be losing. You know,
Amazon, that's what they.
no,
that's
but
what
they're
they've been
trying
doing.
to be profitable. It's not
And
like
so
they're
is-
not.
so is Apple.
The objective is not to remain under the wing of Amazon. You know,
But when you do that, you say, okay, we're starting this new
Right.
streaming service, right? How many years
Right.
out do we say that this company is, us being the umbrella company, this extra company is going to start being profitable. Until then, we're
Well, I
going to
think
just
from
dump
all of
money
it, it's
into
just
it.
how they
So
measure
it-
success, right? So for Amazon example, like what does success mean in relation to what they spend on their Prime Video content,
Right.
right? Is it are they measuring it in subscribers to Prime? Are they measuring it in like I'm not sure how they measure whether that thing is making money or not because given that it's so Netflix is more simple to know because it's all one thing. But even with Apple,
That's
right?
all
Like
they are.
how are
Yeah.
they measuring how much they're
Apple
making
makes billions.
because
well, they have to
they-
have a break even, right?
yeah there's some reason to do it and again it could be
Yeah.
in some short term hey just to harm Netflix. I don't think so because they're not really competing with them, right? But
Right.
it could just be hey we don't care how much we're okay losing some because really what we're gaining is phone sales, right? But again it's
Right,
not
which
a
is-
direct
Right.
it's a different way to measure it. But I guess to wrap up, I have a question for you guys though, before we leave is, I think when streaming started, I know for me, it was like, okay, hooray. We've been talking about cable cutting ever since. Like everyone's just been like down with cable
like,
companies,
oh yeah, okay.
like down with all these people because, I'm not trying to pay $200 to get all these channels I don't watch and it
Right,
costs too much and the
Yeah.
customer service and everyone's been talking about
And look at where
cord
we're at.
cutting and getting rid of it and streaming only for all this time. And now I think we've got to the point where it's like 1,000 streaming services, half of them have ads, and
Yep.
we're
All the stuff
almost
we hate.
back to if I were to subscribe to all the streaming services, I still don't have local
Hey,
stuff
morning cable.
because that's different, right? And so
Right.
I'm kind of financially back to a similar place. Now I can up and down pieces as I need to every month, right? Like for example, we finished watching Ted Lasso. I turned off Apple, right? Once we finished Succession, I turned that off. I turn
Right.
it back on when I need it, right? Like
Right.
I can adjust it and try to keep some kind of a budget. But I guess how you guys feel about I guess the promised utopia of not needing a cable bill anymore and kind of how that relates to kind of the current environment of what we're paying for these services.
And so that's the thing. I'll say this: when that line of thinking started, right? There was like what in the game? There was Netflix, Amazon, Disney.
Not even Disney back
right?
then. I mean, when we first started, it was
And
basically
Hulu.
kind of Hulu-ish.
Oh, yeah,
It was
you're
kind
right.
of-
Yeah.
and Hulu was free for a
Yeah.
while. So
Right. And so it was that the concept was easy to get behind. Now, every damn label has one. It's like, and like you said earlier, what? So if I don't have your stuff, I can't see it at all. It's gone, nowhere to be found. And if I don't watch it now, then if you decide to get rid of it, like Thanos, you just decide to get rid of it. I've never seen it again. So it's wow. I can't. I've come to the point where I realize I'm not going to see everything because I don't want to.
yeah, I mean, so do you think you prefer back when we just had cable?
Because the thing about cable was that you could have cable, and then these other companies could like Stars and
you add on
HBO could
things,
add. Yeah, you could add on to it. Amazon has something similar on their streaming thing where you can
Yeah,
add.
they
it's the
tried
same
to do
thing.
that.
We just buy it.
That would still work. I didn't know that there was this whole anti-cable thing. I mean, cause I've been in France for a while, or Europe for a while, so I guess I didn't really pay attention.
Oh
You
yeah,
still did when it was
because like
starting.
you pay like $200 and you have like 1,000 channels, but like no one watches.
Right.
Like I only want these 10, but you can't buy those 10. Right? You have to buy
You have
these
to buy a
100
package or
because
something. Yeah.
because you want to have this one, and it's like
right.
Yeah.
so expensive. So that
But no, I
rest
knew
of like
that. I
fishing
know
channels.
that situation,
Yeah.
but I didn't
Yeah.
know that people
Oh.
were complaining. They were saying, "Oh, we can now get rid of cable because of streaming." I don't think I was aware of that. I might have been and just kind of went over
Yeah.
my head. But I saw what was interesting. Just to that note is that I did see on Amazon because I'm subscribed to this YouTube channel like something Yates, I forgot his name, but he gives us a rundown of he puts out a rundown of like queer movies to go and watch, right? And so he'll tell you what platform they're on and stuff like that, blah 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 blah. And this is how I knew that this is how I found out that Amazon Prime allows you to add channels to it, which was he was like, oh, you can see it on Amazon Prime through the like Paramount or something like that. I forgot what it was, or Peacock or something like that. And I was like, really? So I went on there, and that's how I found out. So that would be a good solution to it, which would be Netflix would allow you something similar to what you were talking about, Chris, with this. Was it Vid Everywhere or something or something
Right.
like that, where
Yeah.
you can subscribe to these other channels. You can pick and choose other channels to subscribe to, add it to your Netflix account. Or whatever account. I say Netflix because I prefer Netflix to all the other ones. It's the best in my opinion. They just need to work on their management. But other than that, like I think if you could just add channels to that, then you wouldn't need cable anymore. Like cable is very expensive and very
I mean,
physical,
the only real difference with adding it in Amazon versus outside Amazon is just it depending upon your TV interface, it might be an extra click or two because it's not like you're getting a discount by adding it through Amazon. It's one bill really, and it's one person to pay for it. But whether I can add HBO to Amazon, I can add HBO to I think Hulu as well, or I can buy it separately. It's like it's the same thing. It's just one less
I
click
wish
sometimes.
they would negotiate.
Well, so
I wish they would negotiate between the companies where, like you said, like you guys are saying, like if you guys add more channels to Netflix, or Netflix can come to the table and say, hey, we have these channels added on, okay, and we want people to see your channels, but we got to make it cost different. And none of these companies are going to do that. They're not going to say, okay, if they go through your channel,
No,
they get a
the only
discount.
bundle is Disney does their
No.
own with Hulu and ESPN, right?
Yeah, that's
outside of that, it's
and that's
just
what it is.
yeah,
I'm on
it's
my
just
own
adding
island
it to
to everybody else.
but it's
to the bill
but that's
for the
still
different-
better than order, like having to buy an entire huge package just for one channel, like we were talking about. Like at least now you still get to choose, you know.
It's just I think people are now still paying. A lot of people that would have purchased like a larger cable bill, I think are still going to end up not really be able to save a lot of money. If you're trying to, like, for example, just imagine, just look at how often we try to figure out something that all three of us can talk about or watch.
Right.
Like it's so difficult because
they're all on different platforms.
It's all different. And I get that that was always the case, right? Like growing up, if you had Cinemax and I had HBO and you had Showtime, we didn't all have it, then we couldn't watch it together.
Right.
But there were far fewer, I guess, like cultural things that we cared about in that way. Most of what we're watching was on network television,
on public network,
right? Or you know, whatever. But now it's like with all these services, it's difficult to keep up culturally and not have a good chunk of these services. Otherwise, you just are out of it until.
You know. But a good solution to that might be, like Tim was saying, you know, just have them make an agreement with each other. Like Amazon putting out new content, you subscribe, you can keep your Netflix subscription and apply and watch content on, Amazon specific content on Netflix. I don't know how they would come to that, you know, because obviously Netflix would have to have something that would attract people specifically for Netflix, you know, and then Amazon would have to do the same, and then Disney. But that might be a solution, which would be. And this is also something that I feared back in the day when I was just like, oh, there's going to be some other streaming company. I did not expect it to be Amazon, but it made sense that it was Amazon since Amazon sold so many movies already. But I did not expect also Disney. Then when Disney did it, I was like, oh crap, this is not going to end. But anyways, like, I don't know. That seems like a valid choice. I don't know what they would do. So,
I believe some of these companies like HBO. Hold on, I got to tell him what the whole deal.
He's dying.
Take your time. Getting emotional.
Okay, sorry about that. So I believe some of these companies like HBO,
Paramount,
Showtime, Paramount, maybe. You know, right?
Yeah, everyone forgot about that.
But they shouldn't have front-facing online services. You know, I believe they should have services where if you have like Netflix or maybe Disney Plus, you know, or Amazon, because or Apple, because those are the big four.
Here's the problem, really. Tim.
The other ones kind of fall.
This is where we were, right? But then everyone realized every company now wants direct access to their consumers. Right, they want to be able to use that for marketing and selling ads and all kinds of things, and they don't want all that data held by somebody else, which is exactly why they took it off everybody else's stuff and made their own thing, because they want direct access to their customers so that they can use that data.
They should.
If their stuff is on someone else's platform,
they shouldn't have front facing.
They have to get that data from someone else secondhand.
But they need to be okay.
And
with
they don't want to. And they don't want to share.
No. What I'm saying,
because it's valuable.
What I'm saying is, it is. You're right. You're correct. But what I'm saying is, like, okay, even with that said, okay, you know, they should have, I'm saying they shouldn't have like a front facing, like I'm talking about. They're not going to be like an Amazon Prime, okay? But say if Amazon Prime didn't have, they had their own thing, right? But they wasn't the one that was actually promoting it. You know, on Netflix, you can get Amazon.
Yeah, I get it.
But you're not going to go to the Google store and download Amazon Prime and just go straight to them, you know? Because some of these
Hey,
companies
well,
can't
that's the
afford it.
point. The point is now they realize that they couldn't afford it. They shouldn't have jumped on that wagon
They gotta pay
if
this.
they didn't know that they could produce the content that was needed to keep a streaming service up and running and profitable.
Because
So yeah, I agree. They should have
yeah,
relegated.
because
Yeah.
contracts.
Hmm?
Yeah, some of these contracts, some of these
Mm-hmm.
shows they have to pay these actors as long as these shows are playing. They paying these actors money. That's the biggest issue. They
Oh, but that
paying
was
all
going to
these
happen
actors
anyway. I
and
mean, this is what they do
and
with
the
their
directors.
movies or the shows that they make.
Well,
anyway.
no. Yeah, but some of the contracts for these shows were set up as I can't think of what it's called, but it's basically the longer the show's
Mhm.
on air, it goes into something, and then the actors keep they'll keep getting paid.
Like
if
bonuses?
the Cosby
Didn't-
Show was
wasn't
on air.
you
Bill
talking about
Cosby
that,
was
Chris?
still
Well, I mean, there's issues with the writers because of this, because the way that streaming works. But that's exactly why there's companies are taking shows off their services because as long
that's
as it's
why they're
on the
taking it off. They don't
service,
wanna pay.
they have to pay for it, and so for them, it's cheaper, given how many people watch it, to just take
Just
it
to get
off,
rid of it.
right? And then eventually they'll license it to someone else. So again, to my point, instead of them having to pay residuals, they're getting residuals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But
Right.
I mean, it makes them more scattered, right? And their brand isn't as clear because they took it all in and now they're kind of sparsing some stuff out, and it's kind of going to be weird now. I'm curious to see where it all ends up, especially with a lot of these free channels now going back to ads, right?
Yeah.
And so, seeing HBO stuff with ads is going to be interesting. HBO stuff also going to be on Netflix.
Period.
Interesting. The HBO brand, because again, HBO Max was a combination of kind of the HBO brand and other Warner Brothers stuff. Because again,
Right.
it was just HBO Go, which is HBO stuff. When the Max ad, they added in all the DC stuff and all the other things.
Wasn't there a channel
Cinemax,
called Max?
right?
Max?
Which was
Cinemax,
owned by
okay.
Warner Brothers, so same company, right? And so, which is probably why they thought
Okay.
of Max. It's just interesting. As these things kind of keep morphing, we'll see where it goes. I feel like going forward, I may end up buying more thing and subscribing to less. But also, I think as a society, in some ways, we're going to be a little more fractured, and just because of all these silos of things. And I guess I'm going to have to get okay with, hey, I guess I can't talk to my friends about too many shows because we're not all watching the same one, because we're not all subscribing to the same thing, and we're not all sharing
Right.
the same subscriptions.
Yeah.
So,
They'll fix it. They'll fix it because they have to.
Right.
They have to figure it out because money. So But
Yeah.
we gotta end.
I'm telling you,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah, I was trying to
have
kind
to,
of wrap us up here.
Yeah.
we can talk
My
about this
office is
forever.
88 degrees now, so
So let's let Chris
yes,
sweating
cool off.
is going. But
Yeah.
good conversation.
I have no
Yeah.
fan, no air conditioning here in my as well.
I
so
mean, it was good.
it
I think
sucks.
we will have some other conversations that's kind of spawned out of this. I'm eager to
Yeah.
see kind of how things change the next 6 months.
Me
But
too. Yeah.
yes, until then, thank y'all for joining us today
Yep.
for this episode. Don't forget to look us up on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the good stuff. We got reels, we got videos. Subscribe, like, give us a review on your favorite podcasting app,
Follow.
Apple Podcasts. Yeah, do
Yeah.
all the stuff. Follow, click all the things, like all the things. Give us reviews, give us 5 stars because we're awesome. We appreciate you
Yeah.
guys.
We are.
Thanks again to Nate for all the editing work. Again, thanks to Tim for graphical work. Thanks to Jaden Moore for audio stuff as far as our intro and outro. And I guess we'll catch y'all the next time.
And thank Chris for moderating.
Oh,
Look at that. All right.
bye, Tim.
Bye, Tim.